You are watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. An Arctic blast hammering already snow-covered states. Who should expect another 2 feet of snow by tomorrow, and just how powerful those winds will get?
We're going to focus on letters, desperate people who were denied care.
The search for the CEO killer. Police zeroing in on a suspect in a 2-day manhunt. What the shooter left behind that could provide investigators a clue. And what you need to know about the newly revealed link between exposure to lead in gasoline and mental health disorders. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. Right now, over 50 million people under wind advisories and more than 10 million under winter weather alerts as a storm and cold front sweeps across parts of the country. Powerful Arctic temperatures and heavy snow hitting the Northeast today. Areas in the lake effect snow belts can expect up to 2 feet of snow by tomorrow. The Central Appalachians, Mid-Atlantic and Northeast were forecast to get wind gusts of up to 80 miles per hour. Temperatures are up to 20 degrees below average in parts of the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic. And a live look for you now over San Francisco Bay, where earlier today residents felt shock waves from a 7.0 earthquake that hit just off the coast of Ferndale, California, near the Oregon border. The National Weather Service initially issued a tsunami warning from Florence, Oregon, onto south of Santa Cruz, California, before then lifting it this afternoon. About 10,000 customers in Northern California lost power due to that quake, but no casualties were reported. And take a good look at your screen. This is the suspect police believe gunned down the CEO of UnitedHealthcare outside of a New York City hotel yesterday. A manhunt continues after CEO Brian Thompson was gunned down in broad daylight in what police have called a targeted attack. We're seeing reports that the shooter may have left a message on the bullets he used to kill Thompson, which include the words deny, depose, and defend engraved on live rounds and shell casings. We know that Brian Thompson was one of several senior executives at the company under investigation for insider trading. Law enforcement analyst John Miller says there will be several avenues for investigators to find a motive and the suspect.
And they're going to focus on letters, desperate people who were denied care or tests or something that could have saved a life who blame the company.
Yesterday, Thompson's wife said she had been aware of some concerning threats against the company's high-level executives. Also developing right now, 2 kindergarten students remain in extremely critical condition after a shooter opened fire at their elementary school in Northern California yesterday. The 2 victims are boys aged 5 and 6. After that shooting, the suspect was found dead from what is believed to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police say the suspected shooter had met with the school administrator earlier in the day to discuss enrolling a student at the small Seventh-day Adventist church school that's near Palermo and only has a total of 35 students. It's unclear if that meeting was legitimate or just a ploy to get inside the facility. A 6th grader says she was going in for lunch recess when she heard those gunshots.
I also saw the shooter go across a window, like pacing back and forth, and then we were running to the gym. I looked back and I saw a shadow with a gun, so I told most people to run even faster.
Just terrifying. And the local sheriff says the gunman may have targeted the school for its religious affiliation, but does not think there is a connection to the victims or the school. Investigators are still trying to determine a motive. Across the country, school threats are on the rise year over year, and that's according to data from TDR Solutions. The average number of schools targeted per month with at least a threat of violence has gone up to 785 a month, a steady increase over the last 3 years, from 176 a month in 2021 to 2022. Elementary schools, they remain the most likely destination with 377 threats per month. High schools also highly targeted with more than 200 a month. Private schools, despite yesterday's tragedy, as well as colleges, remain the least likely to be targeted, according to that same study. Frustration setting in for more than 1,000 people in Buncombe County, North Carolina, who are living in hotels after Helene came through and ravaged a multitude of areas. This as FEMA confirms only 27 families are in FEMA trailers, despite about 100 temporary homes being sent to the state. The National News Desk's Kimberly King asked FEMA directly what is causing all the delays.
Buncombe officials report 7,694 homes need repairs in the county to live in. And 2 weeks ago, FEMA's spokeswoman said this.
Nearly 500 families have already been approved for direct housing assistance.
Yet,
we have 14 families occupying units in Buncombe, Haywood, McDowell, and Henderson counties.
Just a fraction of the 1,000 people FEMA says in Buncombe motels and hotels right now. On a briefing, we asked.
There are concerns in our community that there is a massive crisis brewing for people who do not have FEMA housing, temporary housing. What is the status on FEMA bringing trailers to our community?
We're very well aware of the challenges in front of us. We do have more than 1,000 people in Buncombe County right now who are being sheltered in our transitional sheltering assistance program.
Officials speak for hotels.
There is reporting that's going on right now that FEMA only has 27 trailers in this area.
So the mobile units are in the process. We started at 14 and now we're at 27.
We would be grateful if FEMA could be very transparent about what the progress is. Are these having to be built?
As we look at bringing in mobile units, there are a number of different complicating factors.
FEMA's spokeswoman never answered my direct question. The federal agency has posted its own promotional footage showing one Buncombe family that got a mobile home.
Just drop the whole thing right here. Super grateful.
While one family gives a testimonial, other families remain in motels. FEMA officials speaking in circles with no clear information on the cause for housing delays, regurgitating information again and again.
Topography here in Buncombe County, we've got a lot of mountains.
Memphis Mayor Paul Young declined to enter a consent decree to go along with the DOJ's scathing review of the Memphis Police Department. He says he needs more time to review the DOJ's findings to decide whether or not to implement what he called a potential financial burden on Memphis residents. The Department of Justice opened a 17-month investigation after Tyree Nichols was fatally wounded by 5 police officers, but found abuses by the department went much further than that one case.
Based on this investigation, we found that the police in Memphis use excessive force, that they stop, search, and arrest people unlawfully, that their policies have a discriminatory effect on Black people, and that they discriminate against people with behavioral health disabilities.
Mayor Young says the city has already made hundreds of positive changes within the police department since that incident took place. Jurors are on their 3rd day now of deliberating the fate of a military veteran accused of manslaughter. Jordan Neely was acting erratically on a subway train last May and died after Daniel Penny placed him in a chokehold for almost 6 minutes. The jury has to decide if Penny is guilty of manslaughter or a lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. Penny does face up to 15 years if convicted. As the year comes to an end, the task force investigating the assassination attempts of President-elect Donald Trump is wrapping up its work. Their final hearing on Thursday quickly turned into a shouting match between a Republican congressman and the acting head of the Secret Service. The National News Desk's Atra Al-Nashar reports from Capitol Hill.
Almost 5 months after, now President-elect Donald Trump almost lost his life in Butler, Pennsylvania, emotions are still running high.
I'm asking you, Congressman, were you the special agent in charge? To show respect for a Secret Service member that died on 9/11. Oh, that you're trying to be. Do not invoke 9/11 for political purposes. Oh, I'm not. I'm invoking this. You are, sir. Gentlemen, you are out of
Republican Congressman Pat Fallon accusing acting Secret Service Director Ronald Rowe of caring more about about quote-unquote auditioning for the job of leading Trump's detail than the integrity of his protection. Trump has yet to announce who he wants in charge of the Secret Service. The explosive exchange occurred during the final hearing of the task force investigating the 2 attempted assassinations.
The reason emotions are high is because we almost did have a former president and now the president-elect literally almost killed live on television.
The task force had 3 goals. 1, understand what went wrong on the day of the attempted assassination in Butler. 2, ensure accountability. And 3, prevent this kind of failure from happening again.
That is a tough task because we don't know what the future holds for us.
The acting head of the Secret Service says 4 areas of deficiencies were identified.
Communications, protective advance processes, command and control processes, and coordination with external entities. Let me be clear. There will be accountability, and that accountability is occurring.
Now, another glaring issue at the Secret Service is a personnel shortage. But Rowe says applications are up and they're on track to onboard 1,100 agents and uniformed division officers by June. As for the task force's upcoming report, it'll include dozens of recommendations for the Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security, and Congress.
Wow, a lot of changes still coming. What else do we know about what the Secret Service has done since Butler to improve security, maybe in the immediate term?
Well, Rowe explained how they've expanded the use of drones to help them observe events, and the agency's also issued a directive to mandate unified command at a singular location for all protective sites. That is something that was not done in Butler, and it led to a lot of confusion and communication breakdowns between the Secret Service and local law enforcement. Rowe also said that, get this, they're already looking ahead to the 2028 presidential election, trying to anticipate all the needs that they'll have for that campaign season.
Certainly a new world we live in now. Atra El-Nashar, thank you so much for that report out of Washington, D.C. A judge has rejected a plea deal for Boeing over the fatal crashes of 2 737 MAX jetliners. The deal would have had Boeing plead guilty to a felony charge and pay a fine for misleading regulators. Today, the judge said the deal created uncertainty around the criminal prosecution of Boeing. 346 people died in the crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia. Boeing and DOJ can try to negotiate a new plea deal. Coming up, the big change in how long it's taking unemployed Americans to find new jobs. Then the holiday season is also heart attack season, the biggest reason for the risk and what you can do to protect your heart. And later, college students in Rhode Island caught shouting offensive chants during a basketball game this week. Why some students don't think it was too much of a problem. We'll be right back. Job searches are taking a bit longer these days. 40% of the 7 million people unemployed in October of this year have been looking for a job for 15 weeks or more, a jump of 20% over the last year at the same time. More than half of these out-of-work job seekers have been unemployed for more than 6 months. All of this according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This as the number of Americans filing jobless claims went up slightly last week. Labor Department data showing unemployment benefits rose 9,000 to a seasonally adjusted 224,000 for the week ending in November 30th. Economists forecast 215,000 claims for the latest week. Even so, claims are still at levels showing moderate job growth. This after hurricanes and labor strikes distorted the labor market in November. Well, Bitcoin bit the big one. Finally, the cryptocurrency surged to a record high late yesterday, over $100,000 for a single coin. The milestone comes after President-elect Donald Trump announced a pick for SEC chair who is pro-crypto. Trump intends to nominate Paul Atkins to lead the Securities and Exchange Commission, which regulates cryptocurrency. Atkins is a former SEC commissioner expected to regulate cryptocurrency with a lighter touch than the current SEC chair under Biden. And Bitcoin is up 130% for the year so far, with the post-election rally accounting for a big portion of its gains. Its performance far outpaces the S&P 500, which is up 28% over the same period. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have been holding meetings with lawmakers on Capitol Hill today about the new Department of Government Efficiency. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Musk and Ramaswamy are discussing major reform ideas with Republicans. The two are expected to push to end remote work across federal agencies entirely.
One of the first things that I think you'll see is a demand from the new administration and from all of us in Congress that federal workers return to their desks and get back to the work that they're supposed to be doing. I think that is common sense. What you're going to see here, the overriding theme here, is a return to common sense.
The Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE for short, is not actually a government department. It will likely make recommendations to the White House for the president's annual budget. South Korean President Yoon is under multiple insurrection investigations after his failed attempt to impose martial law this week. His defense minister resigned because of the failure and took responsibility for it. Opposition parties, however, they want to impeach Yoon, calling the martial law declaration, which lasted just a few hours before Parliament voted to end it, unconstitutional and illegal. The Democratic Party leader says he thought it wasn't real at first.
My wife suddenly showed me a YouTube video and said, "The president is declaring martial law." I replied, "That's a deepfake. It has to be a deepfake. There's no way that's real."
Well, Yoon said the move was justified and called efforts to impeach senior officials anti-state activities. Impeaching Yoon would require support from 2/3 of the National Assembly. Tonight, Syrian rebels have captured Hama, the second major city in the country to fall during clashes with government forces that have reignited a civil war in the country. The loss dealing another blow to President Bashar al-Assad, who just days ago lost control of the country's largest city of Aleppo. The rebels, led by a Turkish-backed militant group, say they're liberating their country, freeing hundreds of prisoners they believe are wrongfully detained by government forces. The insurgents are likely to target more towns in the coming days, and they already have control of the police command headquarters and airbase. Late fall, early winter is heart attack season. Some say it could be the stress of the holidays or shoveling snow or even the cold itself. Medical reporter Liz Bonas shares a warning and tips from cardiologists about taking care of your heart this holiday season.
Hey there, everybody. It is the season to eat, drink, and be merry. But for some, that can lead to holiday heart syndrome. And that is a collection of symptoms that result in a common condition called atrial fibrillation.
Atrial fibrillation is when the upper chambers, known as the atria, don't conduct electricity in the normal way.
And when that electricity in the heart is not normal, Dr. Eugene Chung of Ohio's Christ Hospital told me your heart starts squeezing irregularly. It can raise your risk of a heart event, and it's often triggered by a night of heavy alcohol intake.
So binge drinking is a real problem for triggering atrial fibrillation. So in the old days, it used to be known as holiday heart, because people would go out binge and then come in with atrial fibrillation.
His advice to lower your risk?
Moderate your drinking, and your heart will do better if you do.
The symptoms of holiday heart syndrome often include low energy, dizziness, heart palpitations, and trouble breathing.
It's not a uniform thing. Some people can binge and be okay, but as you get older, that threshold gets lower too, and you might have more atrial fibrillation with binge drinking.
Now, one other note, be careful with those over-the-counter medications when you've had a little too much holiday cheer. We often take them to stop a hangover, but some of these can add stress to the heart and up your risk for this holiday heart syndrome. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
Good reminders, Liz. Thank you. Well, lead in car exhaust has caused more than 150 million mental health disorders since the year 1940. That's according to estimates in a new study in the Journal of Child Psychology and Psychiatry. The researchers found exposure to lead in gasoline during early development led to more depression, anxiety, ADHD, impulse control issues, and neurotic behavior in the U.S. population, especially for those who were born between 1966 and 1986. Lead was banned from gasoline in 1996. And this just in, the House has denied Democrats' efforts to force the ethics report on former Rep. Matt Gaetz to be released. That pushes the fate of an end to the years-long probe of sexual misconduct accusations into further uncertainty. Coming up, a new system in some schools promises to detect weapons using artificial intelligence, why some people are skeptical when we come back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin in Alabama with concerns over an AI weapon detection system in schools.
Every time this deputy walked through Evolve's AI-powered security scanner at Mary G. Montgomery High School in Sims this afternoon, the device detected the gun he was carrying. Andy Gatewood, the school system's head of security, says there have been no firearm cases since school started. Last week, the FTC announced a proposed settlement with Evolve that would prohibit misrepresentations about the company's abilities and allow schools that sign contracts with them between April of 2022 and June of 2023 to opt out of them. The FTC alleged in its complaint the scanners failed in several instances to detect weapons in schools. At least one school board member is now questioning if they're getting what they paid for. Johnny Hatcher says he was alarmed after learning about the FTC settlement and went with law enforcement to a school to test the devices himself today.
I'm satisfied that it picked up a firearm. I'm not as satisfied with other things that we were led to believe that it would pick up that it's not picking up.
The more these kids just yelled at them, I was like, you just look stupider and stupider.
PC fans acting not so PC during Tuesday night's game against BYU.
Point guard and good but he has length and he's
It may be hard to make out the chants from the Friars student section in this video, but people who were there in the stands tell us it was negative towards Mormons.
I think it just shows the passion of Friartown. I mean, maybe it's not the most appropriate thing, but the fans love it.
And while some students are doubling down on the chants, PC's athletic director put out a public apology on X. Stephen Napolillo posting, quote, "I want to apologize to BYU men's basketball, their coaches and institution for unacceptable chants by our student body tonight."
So we're out here spraying aerially, and that aerial herbicide is sprayed to knock back a lot of the invasive grasses that come post-fire. These invasive grasses are light, flashy fuels that help fire spread rapidly and make it hard for firefighters to stop them.
Before their operations could begin, the BLM did an environmental assessment to ensure the herbicide would have no significant impact on the native ecosystem. The herbicide of choice, Imazapic, is designed to kill the seeds in the soil to prevent future growth and end potential wildfire cycles.
We're seeing over time that herbicide is working to knock back a lot of those grasses.
The program that aims to return astronauts to the moon facing more delays. NASA today revealing the mission, which was meant to launch in 2026, will now be pushed to 2027. All of it linked to some technical issues with the Orion crew capsule that will be home to those astronauts.
Space is demanding, and we and our industry and international partners need this time to make sure that the Orion capsule is ready to safely deliver our astronauts to deep space and back to Earth.
Today, Administrator Bill Nelson also said NASA would land astronauts on the moon's south pole, which is believed to be home to valuable stores of water that could be converted into rocket fuel or even drinking water. And they're aiming to do it all before China, which is planning its own moon mission by 2030. That does it for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.